What shall I do, wailed the father. Tell me quick what to do before it starts falling out. Matilda said, I'd give it a good wash, Dad, if I were you, with soap and with water, but you'll have to hurry. Will that change the colour back? The father said anxiously. Of course it won't, you twit, the mother said. Then what do I do? I can't go round looking like this forever. You'll have to have it dyed black, the mum said. But wash it out first, or there won't be any there to dye. Right, the father shouted, springing up into action. Get me an appointment with your hairdresser this instant for a hair dyeing job. Tell them it's an emergency. They've got to boot someone else off their list. I'm going upstairs to wash it out now. And with that, the man dashed out of the room, and Mrs. Wormwood, sighing deeply, went to the telephone to call the beauty parlour. He does do some silly things now and again, doesn't he, Mummy? Matilda said. The mother, dialling the number on the phone, said, I'm afraid men aren't always as clever as they think they are. You'll learn that when you get a bit older, my girl. Miss Honey. Matilda was a little late in starting school. Most children began primary school at 5, or even just before, but Matilda's parents, who weren't very concerned one way or the other about their daughter's education, had forgotten to make the proper arrangements in advance. She was 5.5 when she entered school for the first time. The village school for younger children was a bleak brick building called Cruncham Hall Primary School. It had about 250 pupils, aged 5 to just under 12 years old. Their teacher, the boss, the supreme commander of the establishment, was a formidable middle-aged woman whose name was Miss Trunchbull. Naturally, Matilda was put at the bottom class, where there were 18 other small boys and girls about the same age as her. Their teacher was called Miss Honey, and she could not have been more than 23 or 24. She had a lovely, pale, oval Madonna face with blue eyes, and her hair was light brown. Her body was so slim and fragile that one got the feeling that if she fell over, she'd smash into 1,000 pieces like a porcelain figure. Miss Jennifer Honey was a mild and quiet person who never raised her voice and who was seldom seen to smile. There's no doubt that she possessed that rare gift for being adored by every small child under her care. She seemed to understand totally the bewilderment and fear that so often overwhelms young children, who for the first time in their lives are herded into a classroom and told to obey orders. Some curious warmth that was almost tangible shone out of Miss Honey's face when she spoke to a confused and homesick newcomer to the class. Miss Trunchbull, the headmistress, was something else altogether. She was a gigantic holy terror, a fierce tyrannical monster who frightened the life out of pupils and teachers alike. There was an aura of menace about her, even at a distance, and when she came up to you, you could almost feel the dangerous heat radiating from her, as from a hot rod of metal. When she marched, Miss Trunchbull never walked. She always marched like a stormtrooper with long strides and arms swinging. When she marched along a corridor, you could actually hear her snorting as she went. And if a group of children happened to be in her path, she ploughed right on through them like a tank, with small people bouncing off her left and right. Thank goodness we don't meet many people like her in our world, though they do exist, and all of us are likely to come across at least one of them in our lifetime. If you ever do, you should behave as you would if you met an enraged rhinoceros out in the bush. Climb up the nearest tree and stay there until it's gone away. This woman, in all of her eccentricities and in her appearance, is almost impossible to describe. But I shall make some attempt to do so later on. Let's leave her for the moment and go back to Matilda and her first day in Miss Honey's class. After the usual business of going through all of the names of all the children, Miss Honey handed out a brand new exercise to each pupil. You've all brought your own pencils, I hope, she said. Yes, Miss Honey, they chanted. Good. Now, this is the first day of school. For each one of you. It's the beginning of at least 11 long years of schooling that you are all going to have to go through. And 6 of those years will be spent right here at Cruncham Hall, where, as you know, the headmistress is Miss Trunchbull. Let me, for your own good, tell you something about Miss Trunchbull. She insists upon strict discipline throughout the school, and if you take my advice, you'll do your very best to behave yourself in her presence. Never argue with her, never answer her back, always do as she says, and if you get on the wrong side of Miss Trunchbull, she can liquidize you like a carrot in a kitchen blender. It's nothing to laugh about, Lavender. Take that grin off of your face. all of you will be very wise to remember that Miss Trunchbull deals very, very severely with anyone who gets out of line in her school. Got the message? Yes, Miss Honey, chirped 18 little voices. I myself, Miss Honey went on, want to help you learn as much as possible while you're in this class. It's because I know that it'll make things easier for you later on. For example, by the end of this week, I expect every single one of you to know the 2 times table by heart. And in a year's time, I hope you'll know the multiplication tables up to 12. It'll help you enormously if you do. Now then, do any of you happen to have learnt the 2 times tables already? Your job is to predict what Matilda is going to say.